2004, my husband started teaching at Bellevue College. He came home his first night on the job and was livid. He was talking about his commute, how awful it was, how frustrating, 2 bridges, and he was wound up, to say the least. It took me about 4 minutes of listening to him to realize he was still talking about his morning commute on the way to work, not his afternoon commute he had just finished. We live in a gem of a neighborhood, but the tough part about living in West Seattle is getting in or out. Am I right? Yeah. Yes. And it's not going to get any better. It's going to get worse before it gets better. What's going to happen? Well, later this month, Lander Street in Soto, between 1st and 4th, is going to close to build an overpass. That closure will be about 2 years. In September of this year, the viaduct is going to close. And in 4-ish weeks after the viaduct closes, then the Highway 99 tunnel will open. In late 2018, early 2019, the viaduct demolition will start and the construction on the waterfront. And then sometime in 2019, one of the 2 service changes for metros will be either in March or September. Metro buses will leave the downtown Seattle Transit Tunnel, so it can be devoted to exclusively to light rail. So it'll get worse before it gets better. But I want to talk about 3 fronts where we're taking action to address this. First of all, in planning within Metro, it will be a tough few weeks when the tunnel itself, when the viaduct is closed before the tunnel opens. And in fact, in the coming 2 years, there will be 3 changes to the Metro pathways for buses that currently use the viaduct. So what routes? Well, the 21 Express, the 37, the 55, my routes, the 56 and 57, the 113, 120, 122, 123, 125, and the C line. A lot of buses use the viaduct. The first pathway in the time that the viaduct is closed will be the yellow path you see behind me, the 4th Avenue to 3rd Avenue route. And then we will switch to the blue route you see behind me for 9 to 18 months with buses using 1st Avenue. And then the green lines is the permanent route along Alaskan Way to a newly redesigned Columbia Street, which will be redesigned 2-way. So unlike what we see today, buses will be going 2-way on Columbia. Metro has already planned, the council and the county have already planned to invest additional funds in bus service to and from West Seattle to guarantee the same number of departures. It's going to take a few minutes longer, particularly in the yellow and blue, but more money will be invested so that we'll have the same number of departures. Think about your buses leaving at the same time, but getting to your destination downtown 7 to 10 minutes later. So if being there on time and that 7 to 10 minutes is going to cause you a problem, you need to think about catching an earlier bus. Yes?
Interrupt 1 second. So do you know, in the past, like when we've had, temporary reroutes and things like that, like viaduct inspections and things, Metro has had a tendency to look at the reroute as if you were on the viaduct, and buses would run express, and the first stop wouldn't be to the usual spot around Seneca. Are they looking at some point in this process, at any time, starting to allow, say, for people to maybe have a stop at Columbia or things like that, since there are a lot of riders who walk back from Seneca right now?
You and I included.
You and I included, yes. So are they looking at any of that as we begin to step to a street-only access?
a great question that I'll take back, and it's the kind of feedback I'm looking for tonight during the presentation and after Rich's presentation about sound transit to gather all kinds of input and information that I can take back and pursue. Know that the more stops we make, the more time it adds, but we know how many riders are walking back from getting off on Seneca Street every day. We are also, by 2020, we'll have revamped the 120 into Rapid Ride, the Rapid Ride H line, providing that Rapid Ride service. We almost have it to the Rapid Ride frequency now at the 120 as the existing 120, but with Rapid Ride will come all doors boarding and the more Rapid Ride experience, keeping the route moving as much as possible. And then if you want to avoid roads and delays entirely, we have a great option, the West Seattle Water Taxi. The water taxi ridership for 2017 for the West Seattle route alone hit over 375,000 riders. If I'm going to talk about ridership and use of the water taxi, let me ask you, what is the single best thing to happen to the water taxi?
What?
Pardon me?
Well, when it started being year-round.
Year-round? What else? That's not what I'm
Good
looking
guess.
for. That's good. That's good. That's not wrong, but that's not what I'm looking for.
The covered waiting area.
How about winning the Super Bowl? Think about it. When we win the Super Bowl, then there was a parade downtown. Everybody wants to go to the parade. Nobody can get there. They have to try other options. More people try the water taxi. It's great. Second best thing to ever happen to the water taxi? Well, clearly that was the 9-day closure in 2016 of the viaduct. What's the third best thing? You're with me now. The 5-day closure earlier this year. More people get to experience the water taxi and realize what a great transit option it is across the water. When you adjust for the 9-day closure in 2016 and the 5-day closure in 2017, ridership from year to year was up just over 5%, 5.2% year to year. Great growth in the water taxi. We have built into the budget an expectation that there will be a fare increase every 2 years, and so a 50-cent increase in the fare will happen this spring, and we are making long-range capital investments in the water taxi, such as right now our lease expires later this year for the Seacrest Marina, the West Seattle dock, and we are negotiating a lease now that will be a 5-year lease with 5 one-year extensions, and we have folded what used to run the water taxi, the Ferry District, into King County, which is a much better way, in my opinion, to manage it. One day when I was chair of the Ferry District, when it wasn't independent government, I got a call from the director of Washington State Ferries one day, who wasn't asking me any questions. He was informing me that they were going to renovate Coleman Dock, downtown Seattle ferry dock, and they were not going to include any passenger-only ferry service. That didn't work so well, to not have a dock in downtown Seattle. So that year I printed up flyers, and I spent my Valentine's Day morning meeting all of the ferries coming in, the water taxis coming in from West Seattle and from Vashon, leafleting, letting them know how to communicate with Washington State Ferries to emphasize the need to have a passenger-only ferry dock in downtown Seattle. I'm pleased to say all of the in-water work, all of the piling driving is now done. This is the view you can see from my office. And later this year, the decking, the surface will be put in for the Coleman Dock, downtown Seattle water taxi dock. So we have the long-range capital investments needed. And when the county council adopted the county budget last year, we secured long-term funding for the water taxi. If you want me to go down a rabbit hole of wonky details, I can tell you about the history of the funding of the water taxi. Long story short, we were slated to run into the red and run out of money this year. And with work by the council, we have long-term sustainable funding for the West Seattle water taxi and the Vashon route as well. So great work there. And thirdly, I want to introduce the topic, and then Rich will have the general presentation for a rich conversation that I think will really set off a rich conversation for all of us about bringing light rail to West Seattle. The conversation is being led by an elected leaders group that I co-chair, and I want you to know that West Seattle is very well represented on the elected leaders group. My fellow elected leaders on that group include Dow Constantine, Lisa Herbal, and Lorena Gonzalez. And then we are informed by the Stakeholders Advisory Group, or the SEG. And the SEG has a number of luminaries from West Seattle as well, most particularly Dana. Deb, sorry.
Really smart.
Deb representing West Seattle Transportation Coalition, but we don't see anybody as representing one particular constituency or one entity. Just like the elected leaders group, we're asking the Stakeholders Advisory Group to be as representative as they can of their community. To gather ideas here, the West Seattle Transportation Coalition, to gather ideas at West Seattle Thriftway, at C&P Coffee, at Junction True Value, wherever you may be, wherever you get an idea, to come bring that information in. We've learned from light rail planning, particularly in my experience on the Sound Transit Board, in planning East Link from Bellevue, which might be the negative example of how to work with a local government. We have a very strong partnership agreement, Sound Transit and the City of Seattle, in how we're going to make decisions about alignment and stations and service, and trying to front load as many of those decisions as possible to compact the amount of time that Sound Transit process has previously taken. That means that in just over a year, we will be looking to the Stakeholder Advisory Group to be providing input to the elected leaders group, final input, and going forward with what we hope is a final plan to go take into EIS, the Environmental Impact Review. And that is the work that Sound Transit is very much into now. There were over 300 people, and I'm sure many of you, at the West Seattle meeting open house on West Seattle alignment for light rail. Also very strong participation in Ballard, and then on Tuesday the coalition's email reminded people that the last of the first round of open houses was Tuesday, 2 nights ago, at Sound Transit headquarters at Union Station. So that's the kind of robust conversation we need to have in West Seattle around the proposed stations and through SoDo, downtown, and into Interbay and Ballard. So we're exploring as many options as early as possible and be able to evaluate them and have the best possible proposal just over a year from now for the EIS. And that will streamline permitting with the city in being able to move toward planning and construction faster than Sound Transit has seen in any other experience we've had. I want to wrap up there and turn it over to Rich, and then look forward to a rich conversation about light rail in Rich's presentation and water taxi, buses, the whole package. Go ahead. That said, go ahead.
I just wanted, so what lessons did you learn about on the East Link side
remember how contentious it was working with the Bellevue City Council.
Yes.
Exactly where the alignment would be on some levels, even if there should be light rail in Bellevue. And that is a dramatic difference from where we are in Seattle. From the beginning of last year in work with Mayor Murray to the agreement that was largely hammered out with Mayor Burgess and signed with Mayor Durkin, Seattle, from the mayor's office and the administrative side, is an extremely strong partner in wanting to streamline permitting, be part of the process up front, and not make it adversarial. And at the same time, the city council is just that invested. I spoke of Lorena Gonzalez's membership on the elected leaders group because I was speaking of West Seattle residents. My co-chair is Mike O'Brien, and other members include Rob Johnson and Sally Bagshaw. So, in fact, enough members of the city council are on the elected leaders group that we have to notice the elected leaders group, which is a sound transit entity, as a City of Seattle City Council meeting, because they have a majority of the city council showing up. So we have to notice it as a sound transit, as a City of Seattle Council meeting. That's how strong the participation is.
Thank you.
There's also two other members of the Stakeholders Advisory Group, Stakeholders Advisory Group, or the SAD, and Brian, and I want to call you Walter, I know you're not Walter. Willard, yeah, Willard. So Willard are also.
And who are here tonight, thank you very much for your work. And Greg Nichols, former mayor, Hamilton Gardner, representing the Chamber of Commerce, and Walter Reese from Nucor Steel.
So, all of us.
Did you say that Willard was from the Delaware Davis neighborhoods development?
No, would you please, Chase?